Tonight on To The Point, insurance companies taking inspections to new heights.
They're flying drones over the neighborhoods to try and get an idea of conditions that might exist.
What it means for customers insuring their homes. Protests in Sacramento over the war in Gaza entering their third day.
We are your students and we do have the power here.
In Los Angeles, protesters clashing, forcing police to step in, and has Governor Newsom responding. Plus, a community under a do not drink notice, the chemical found in the water and how it's being resolved, and celebrating local races and culture. Why a woodland Chinese restaurant just might be the oldest in the nation.
Thank you so much for joining us on To The Point. I'm Alex Bell. California's home insurance crisis is burning. With wildfire season just around the corner, companies are still dropping people's policies, and some are getting notices without anyone even ever coming to their home. And inspections are being done by air. And as ABC 10's Jeannie Nguyen explains, this is something all homeowners should start getting used to.
This is drone video you're seeing of a neighborhood in Roseville. And for many home insurance companies, inspections by air are becoming a way of doing business.
AAA, like a lot of insurance companies, are utilizing new technology to try and simplify the underwriting process.
Carl Sussman is a California insurance expert and says aerial technology has become an updated way for home insurance companies to perform inspections.
They're flying drones over the neighborhoods to try and get an idea of conditions that might exist.
In the past, inspections would be done with inspectors physically coming to homes. Companies also used satellite imagery. But with this new technology, Sussman admits it can feel like an invasion of privacy.
Because nobody's being notified about this, they're not aware that it's happening until after the fact. It's very violating feeling.
As managing partner of Sky Insurance in Rockland, Aurora Mullet says some of her clients have come to her after they've been dropped by their insurance company following an aerial inspection. She's had to tell her clients to accept this new way of inspections.
The insurance companies that are really trying to reduce their risk is by using this drone footage, they can get an overall look. It's less cost approach for the insurance companies.
Adding that the traditional in-person inspections may lead to more issues for homeowners.
And if you want to combat it, then if we put somebody on the ground, we may find other things that are going to prevent you from continuing on with your coverage.
Homeowners do have some options if they've been dropped following an inspection. You can ask for photos and the information, and if there are any steps you can take to get the company to reverse the decision, as California law requires your insurance company to give you advance notice before dropping you.
You're entitled to see what it is that they're making an underwriting decision based on.
While this new technology may be alarming to some homeowners, experts say it's just a sign of the times.
Jeannie, concerning for homeowners, and we know that, AAA is using this technology, but do we know about other companies?
Well, Alex, Aurora Millette did tell me today that she knows of about 17 companies that are using this aerial technology. And some of them include, like you said, AAA, State Farm, Liberty Mutual, and Allstate. And the AAA spokesperson did tell me today that it uses, quote, aerial imagery captured by third-party fixed-wing aircraft and satellites, and emphasizes that drones are not used. So, of course, you can see their full statement on our website at abc10.com.
Yes, Jeannie, thank you. And I do want to mention that if you are a homeowner who has lost your policy because of this, we want to hear from you. So make sure you reach out to our team by sending us an email at tothepoint@abc10.com. All right, Jeannie, thank you so much. Tonight, violence and tensions escalating at colleges across the country amid protests over the Israel-Hamas war. Both the LAPD and NYPD were called in by schools overnight. Many pro-Palestinian protesters calling for colleges to divest funds from Israeli military operations, while some Jewish students are calling the protests anti-Semitic. In New York City, the NYPD moving in to remove protesters who took over a building on Columbia University's campus. At least 300 people were arrested. And then over at UCLA, classes were canceled today following clashes between protesters last night. Officials say pro-Israel counter-protesters surrounded the pro-Palestinian encampment. Substances were sprayed into the air, some protesters using planks of wood as weapons, and some throwing fireworks into the encampment. Governor Gavin Newsom released a statement today condemning the violence, saying in part, quote, "The law is clear. The right to free speech does not extend to inciting violence, vandalism, or lawlessness on campus. Those who engage in illegal behavior must be held accountable for their actions." Meanwhile, protesters at Sacramento State are entering their third day. Students have taken over the library quad, and Alicia Machado has been following this since the very beginning. What are you seeing today?
Protesters continue to occupy the library quad, and take a look behind me. There are about more than a dozen tents here in this area of Sac State as students continue their demonstration. They say they will continue until their demands are met, one of which is the CSU system divesting from Israel. Demonstrations have remained peaceful for the most part. A few counter-protesters that we've seen have shown up throughout the past few days, but none appear to have been violent. The university says police cited 3 students for vandalism who we are told by organizers are not part of the encampment. Something new today, fences are up around the encampment and on the green across. Student protesters we spoke with say they were put up by the university after the administration reached out to organizers. Take a listen.
We did get word this morning that a counter-protest group was coming. The administration came to us and asked if we would like the barricades put up for our safety. Us as a community came together and we decided that that would be the overall best situation for us.
Now, initially, the administration gave demonstrators a deadline of midnight, May 1st, for the encampment to stay, but the university extended its approval for the encampment, saying as long as the encampment stays peaceful, students can stay here, and they have to abide by university policy. Now, classes are still in session. ABC 10 reached out to CSU administration about protesters' demands, and in a statement, they said in part, California State University does not intend to alter existing investment policies related to Israel or the Israel-Hamas conflict. Now, despite this, students tell me that they will continue to stay here and protest until their demands are met. Classes are still in session.
Today at UC Davis, dozens gathered for May Day. It's also known as International Workers' Day, where people celebrate workers' rights. It's also an opportunity to air economic grievances and political demands. University workers were invited to cancel, skip, or bring their classes to the quad to show solidarity for Palestine. They are asking for them to pool university funding from businesses and groups that support the war. New tonight, the father of a toddler involved in a deadly crash in Woodland is now facing charges. The crash happened back on March 16th at a Woodland gas station. Investigators say a 3-year-old was left unattended inside a truck, and that truck somehow ran over and killed a 2-year-old. 34-year-old Julio Navarro Videro is accused of involuntary manslaughter and child endangerment. He is expected to appear in court next week. Still ahead onto the point, hundreds of people in Stanislaus County are under a water advisory. Why the warning could last for weeks.
We're going to see some warm weather to wrap up the work and school week. And then as we head into the beginning of our weekend, big blast of cold air plus showers.
And later, celebrating AANHPI month, the history of a local Chinese restaurant, why it just might be the oldest in the nation. All right, Chief Meteorologist Monica Woods with a look at our forecast tonight. It was windy today.
I know, it was so breezy, and we're going to continue to see occasional breezes. We don't have that wind advisory in effect anymore, but those wind gusts were upwards of 30 miles per hour earlier today. We still have those northwest winds coming in at 15 miles per hour. And that's going to keep us a little bit warmer tonight because those winds actually keep the warmer air closer to the surface. Highs for today reaching near 80 in the valley, 72 for San Francisco, and right about 70 for the foothills, close to 60 up top for this year. Still have to deal with those windy conditions through about 7 p.m. and then things are going to quiet down as we head into the overnight hours. Still seeing those light northwest winds, and that'll start us off right around the mid-50s for morning lows. Again, that warmer air staying pretty close to the surface. Brewing weather system off the coast affects us into our weekend forecast, as you can see, happening over the course of our Saturday. We start to see areas of rain developing for the morning hours, snow developing for this year a little bit later on in the afternoon as that colder air starts to work its way in. We see the rain pretty much widespread through our Saturday evening. And then things will start to partially clear into early Sunday, finally starting to clear out overnight. Highs for tomorrow near 60 for the Sierra with 60s and 70s down the hill. Along the coast, we hit highs in the 70s, 80s inland. Another warm spring day for us, and we'll get a near repeat of that for Friday before we start to see those bigger changes developing for the weekend forecast. You can see how much colder it's going to be to kick off this first weekend of May. We've got highs in the 60s, rain on Saturday, clearing on Sunday, warmer next week.
Thanks, Monica. Next, on To the Point, a community under a do not drink notice, the chemical found in the water and how it's being resolved. Plus, new details over poison in Lake Tahoe. Tonight, hundreds of people living in a Stanislaus County town are being told to not drink their tap water. And it's a warning that will be in effect for weeks. ABC 10's Gabriel Porras has more on what you need to know.
5 cases of water arrived on Humberto Guerrero's front porch Wednesday. The water might be bottled up now, but soon Humberto will be using it for practically everything, from brushing his teeth to drinking.
It's a bit hard because to wash dishes and wash pans, the water has to be clean.
And according to William Wong with the city of Modesto, the water coming from his and his neighbor's taps in Grayson is not clean.
We've had a treatment system in Grayson for decades that has been providing clean drinking water for Grayson. However, the equipment now is obsolete.
All of these acres of farmland that surround Grayson are part of the water problem here. Officials say that manures and fertilizers often contain nitrates, which eventually seep into the groundwater.
Nitrates is a chemical that can affect some of your own personal body systems. Who's most at risk are babies.
At the city's water treatment plant, it's out with the old and in with the new. The plant was shut down on Monday, and work to replace equipment and bring the community's water up to standards is already underway.
We anticipate hopefully being done maybe early June and give ourselves a little leeway so that we can test the equipment.
Until then,
there really isn't much we can do about it.
Brenda Marmolejo and her family will have to live off the 15 gallons of water delivered to her home each week.
We have containers in our bathrooms so that they can wash their hands and brush their teeth and all that stuff in our kitchen as well to keep the house running and do the things. It takes more time now.
And time is a valuable commodity for a mom of 2. She and her neighbors are hoping that construction crews will keep that in mind.
Hopefully, yes, it gets done fast.
You can say that again. And officials say residents who need more water than the weekly delivery can call them to request more. All right, the State Water Board in charge of Lake Tahoe broke state laws and its own regulations by allowing a homeowners association to put poison into the lake water. In 2022, crews tested 2 chemical herbicides in the Tahoe Keys man-made boat canals. These lagoons have become nurseries for invasive underwater weeds that are now spreading around the entire lake. In a lawsuit brought by the Sierra Club, an El Dorado County judge ruled this week that the Lahontan Water Board abused its authority by issuing the permit to use the poison in the lake. The judge says the water board broke environmental laws and ignored its own rules for the Lake Tahoe Basin.
There's non-chemical methods out there that they need to use first, and herbicides need to be the last resort, used only as the last resort. And that's what was put in ultimately in the Basin Plan with this amendment in 2014.
The Lahontan Water Board had no comment today, saying it is still reviewing the judge's ruling. The Tahoe Keys Property Owners Association says it's disappointed in the ruling and reviewing next steps. The judge did not fine the water board, but struck down the permit and awarded attorney's fees to those who sued. And the ABC 10 Originals team investigated this last year, and that investigation is streaming on ABC 10 Plus. All you have to do is just look for Deep Debate, Poisons Tested at Lake Tahoe on the home screen. May is Asian American and Native Hawaiian Pacific Islander Month. A UC Davis law professor believes that he has discovered the nation's oldest continually operating Chinese restaurant, and it's located right in Woodland. So tonight, you've got a reservation with ABC 10's John Bartel at the Chicago Cafe.
If you follow your nose down Main Street Woodland, the smell of chow mein and fried rice might just take you inside the Chicago Cafe Chinese American restaurant. This little mom-and-pop restaurant is within walking distance of the Yolo County Courthouse, and that's why you'll often find longtime regular and UC Davis law professor Gabriel Jack Chin sliding his fork into the cafe's signature dish during lunch hour.
This is a Chicago combination plate for one, and this is one of their specialties.
Jack, as he likes to be called, first tasted the Chicago combo plate back in 2011 inside one of the restaurant's private booths. It's a seating arrangement that's rarely found anymore.
There were ordinances prohibiting these kinds of private booths, and not very many of them survived.
Over the years, Jack has looked over the menu countless times, but it wasn't until recently that he noticed something.
It's not just a Chinese-American restaurant. It is, I believe, the oldest continuously operating Chinese restaurant in the United States.
Welcome to the Pekin Noodle Parlor, the oldest family-owned Chinese restaurant in America.
Back in 2022, the Pekin Noodle Parlor in Butte, Montana gained a lot of headlines when someone thought it was the nation's oldest Chinese restaurant.
That's Jerry Tam. His great-great-grandfather founded the Pekin Noodle Parlor in Butte, Montana all the way back in 1911.
When Jack saw these headlines about the Pekin noodle, it made him think about the Chicago Cafe.
The Chicago Cafe advertises everywhere that they've been open since 1903. 1903.
My grandfather studied. My dad here, yeah.
Paul Fong and his wife Nancy are the third-generation owners of the Chicago Cafe.
And my dad right there, all the customers right there, right here cooking.
And if you look around the restaurant, the family's history is displayed like a museum. Out back, there's even a historic plaque marking the location of the old Fong family home, which was once attached to the restaurant.
They clearly have a sense of the history, so they kept some of the old documents, old menus.
By researching the restaurant's old documents and archived newspapers, Jack and a team of UC Davis students were able to find evidence of the restaurant's existence in 1903. But when they looked at records from the city of Woodland, there was almost no mention of the restaurant.
In 1903, 1904, through into the 20s, the business directories for Woodland and Yolo County did not include Chinese residences or Chinese businesses.
Because of the Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882, discrimination against Asian immigrants across America was widely accepted until the Exclusion Act was repealed in 1943.
It was a series of laws that were designed to restrict Asian immigration to protect white labor.
Restaurants were some of the only businesses under the Exclusion Act that allowed Chinese and Asian immigrants to legally operate a business. It's a topic that Jack discusses in a book he wrote about the history of law and Chinese restaurants.
So this was a place where Asians could work.
So restaurants were kind of like the doorway or the gateway into the United States working here.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
The Chicago Cafe may have experienced some discrimination in the past, but you wouldn't know it today.
The food's good. You meet old friends here.
Many of the longtime customers here were practically raised eating the food that Paul and Nancy cooked.
So I would have to walk up the alley after school and come here, and then Mom would get me in that room over there to do if I had any kind of homework.
The Chicago Cafe is not just a Chinese restaurant. It's a gathering place, a bit of a museum, and the unofficial community trophy case where customers display their taxidermy deer, fish, and even a peacock that someone hit with their car.
So the guy among the bird open the tail like that.
The community loves Chicago Cafe, and it allowed Paul's grandfather and father to immigrate to America from China. It also allowed Paul and Nancy to provide a better life for their children.
My daughter is the doctor in the Kaiser in the physical therapy. And then my son works in the Apple. They all make good money.
Since 1903, the Fong family has been serving food and the community. But with no kids to take over, the Chicago Cafe dynasty looks like it could be coming to an end. Are you going to be sad when you leave the place?
No time to. I put the tell the music guy already. I want to lease out so I can retire.
When the oldest continually operating Chinese restaurant in America does close, there probably will be some tears from customers, but there also will be some laughs from the owners.
The joke is that you work in a Chinese restaurant so your kids don't have to work in a Chinese restaurant. And that worked.
From the Chicago Cafe in Woodland, I'm John Bartel.
An amazing story and good food. I know exactly where I'm going this weekend. And we'll be right back after this short break with what we're working on for tomorrow. Today marks the start of Mental Health Awareness Month, and discussions around the need for resources for first responders are growing. Coming up tomorrow on To The Point, we dive into the mental health challenges for firefighters and what's being done about it. Because according to a 2018 study, first responders are more likely to die by suicide than in the line of duty. The Roseville Fire Department is bringing mental health to the forefront with peer support and a new recruit, a therapy dog. It's a story you'll only see here on To The Point tomorrow at 6:30. Thank you so much for spending part of your day with me. Remember, strangers are just people we haven't gotten a chance to meet yet, so take a little bit of time to get to know someone. Have a great night, and I will see you tomorrow. Hey, it's Alex. I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching. The To The Point team and I love hearing from you, and I hope that you'll stay in touch. And don't forget, you can always email me and the team at tothepoint@abc10.com, or you can even send us a text message at 916-321-3310.